Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks for tuning in. I'm here with the third round of a Modern Friendly League. In this particular Friendly League, I'm testing 2 copies of Smuggler's Copter in the main deck. I substituted out 1 Master of Waves and 1 Vapor Snag. So in the event where I do draw Smuggler's Copter, we're going to want to keep in mind whether it would have been better as a Vapor Snag or potentially as a Master of Waves, or whether Smuggler's Copter is doing a better job than either of those 2 cards. So let's go ahead and see what we've got in store for round 3. Looks like the opponent won the die roll. This is a slow hand, but for me, I think it's a keep. We've got a Mutavault. It's good in a lot of matchups. Master of Waves is excellent. Kira is a singleton, so if we mulligan her away, it's unlikely that we'll draw her again. So yeah, it's a borderline hand, but it's a keep for me. If we mulligan, we could easily get a crappy 6 cards and have to go down to 5. I greatly prefer, especially on the draw, we're going to be hitting more cards. It's a keep for me, even though I don't feel good about it. Well, I feel slightly better about it when the opponent mulligans to 6. Let's see what he does with the Scry. So they put it on top. Razorbird's Thicket, maybe Bogles. Nope, it looks like humans probably. Human Tribal. Champion of the Parish gets bigger every time the opponent plays a human, so we can certainly expect a lot more humans. So for my first turn, I draw another land. Not what I was hoping for. So we'll run out the Wanderwine Hub, reveal and play the Cursecatcher. And we really need to start drawing some gas. Opponent with the Cavern of Souls, playing out what? Thalia is annoying because she has first strike, makes Spreading Seas more expensive. Champion's going to get bigger and crash in for 2. A Reejerey is like okay, but I really want to use my 3 mana to play Kira, which would provide more devotion for Master of Waves. Would have been wonderful to hit a 2-drop there. Instead, I just have to pass the turn. Looks like the opponent's curving out here. Thalia's Lieutenant. All of his humans get a counter, and then whenever any other human enters, Thalia's Lieutenant is going to get bigger, so Champion gets double buffed here. Thalia gets single buffed, and the opponent's coming in for 7, which is quite a lot, and we're not going to have a lot going on next turn. So at this point, I think it's kind of damage control time. We can play out Kira next turn, take our beats, and then follow up with Master of Waves for some chump blocks. So I'm going to throw the Cursecatcher under the bus right now. You know, in hindsight, let's see, what did I do? Yeah, threw the Cursecatcher under the bus, but in hindsight, it might have been smarter, I think, actually, to take the 4 now, since I had already resigned myself to not blocking next turn with Kira, because I need the devotion for Master of Waves. The Champion's almost certainly going to be coming in for more damage next turn, so it just would have been smarter to save the chump with the Cursecatcher for next turn. Well, anyhow, live and learn. That's a big part of the reason why I do these replays, is I learn a lot from them myself. Doesn't matter what I draw this turn, I'm going to play Kira, Island into Kira. Hopefully the opponent has run out of gas, cracks a Windswept Teeth and gets a tapped Breeding Pool. Interesting. Auto access to Island Walk. Another land, still sitting on 2 cards in hand, and getting in with Champion and Thalia here. Apparently no more humans to buff the Lieutenant and also get in with him. Seems that choosing to chump earlier with the Cursecatcher was actually not... It didn't actually set me back anything, since this guy's not getting any bigger. Unless before damage the opponent cracks a Misty Rainforest and plays Collected Company or something like that, and then he gets much bigger. Then the Cursecatcher actually would have been excellent to counter Collected Company. So a couple of reasons why blocking with the Cursecatcher was incorrect last turn. So hopefully no Collected Company. This definitely looks like a deck that could benefit from that card. Okay, it looks like things are slowing down on their side. Things have certainly been super slow on our side. Well, potentially turning a bit of a corner here. I think sitting at 8 life, having taken that 7, that gigantic hit last turn, we pretty much have to, it's time to run out our chumps. So play another Mutavault, which can act as a blocker next turn if necessary. Play Master of Waves and get 3 bodies. You know, I figured that I wasn't going to block anybody with the Kira next turn because the opponent could easily, having not played anything last turn, could easily be holding on to a Path to Exile. We'd really hate to lose our Master of Waves to a Path right now. So we'll get in with Kira since we're certainly not going to block anything with her next turn at least. The opponent draws a card and plays out Human Lord. This is pretty rough right now. So other humans get +1/+1. So everybody, before they even get buffed by, like Champion has its own ability, Thalia's Lieutenant has its own ability. Those guys are getting double buffed. So this is an enormous attack. He's coming in for 13. And we have some choices. I can throw all 3 guys in front of the Champion of the Parish and just get rid of their biggest attacker. Take 7, go down to 1. That doesn't leave me with a lot of blockers next turn. A lot of profitable blocks, at least. We're still facing down a 4/3 first strike and a 3/3. On top of this 1/1, and we'd be at 1 life, so this guy by himself would be lethal, and he could have anything else in his hand. Or we could chump the Champion and use 2 of these guys to take down the Thalia's Lieutenant, who could continue to grow. It seems better to me because I could draw into a Harbinger and bounce the Champion to reset his counters. So yeah, we'll chump that guy and then double block the Lieutenant to at least, you know, the plan is, if possible, to reduce their creature count because we can rapidly expand our board if we draw into more Masters of Waves. And they don't have the same explosive ability. So we got 1 creature down. Chumped this guy and took 4 from Thalia, going down to 4. We can't afford to take another hit like that. Another land is not what I was hoping for. This is a very difficult spot, sitting at 4 life. We could play a Reejerey and play our Island Walk Lord. All of our creatures get a little bit bigger, but they're still outclassed by Thalia with first strike. We already played our land, so we could play out a Reejerey and then choose to chump with... We still have to chump with 2 creatures. So really poor decisions, and you know, faced with kind of a dead end like this, just take the most aggressive line, put out our 2 lords, untap an island representing a Vapor Snag or something, and at this point, I had to think whether I wanted to potentially block with the Kira or not. Opponent still sitting back on 2 cards, still has white mana up. But in the end, we're at 4 life and we need our blockers, so I just chose to pass to the opponent's turn. Opponent gets a tapped Temple Garden, sitting comfortably at 16 life. You know, this is what happens when you keep a slow opening hand and you come up against a very aggressive deck. Now this is really weird. The opponent chose just to get in with Thalia instead of pushing more with the Champion here. Anyhow, I want my Island Walk. I've got Spreading Seas. I've already got Island Walk with Breeding Pool. So I think I'm going to double block with these 2 guys here. Just get Thalia's first strike off the board. I could also have chosen to chump, like with Master of Waves or something, and left Reejerey back. But in this case, trading 1 for 1 seems kind of reasonable. Again, reducing the opponent's board presence seems good because we can draw into Master of Waves and suddenly have 8 bodies on the table. Alright, opponent choosing to kill Reejerey. Thalia down. Things starting to feel okay because we've got more creatures now, especially with Mutavaults considered. Opponent's got something to follow up with, though. Let's see. Well, Reflector Mage makes me feel good about not blocking with Kira. But if he's playing out Reflector Mage, this almost certainly represents that he's got a follow-up, which is almost definitely Path to Exile. Taking care of my Island Walk Lord. So the balance of creatures, again, shifting in favor of the opponent. He's got a massive 7/7 Champion of the Parish. Reejerey is really not going to do the job here. We can play out Spreading Seas and see what we draw. Hit that Temple Garden. Drew into an AEther Vial. Let's see. We'll play this Reejerey. We can afford to take a hit from the Reflector Mage. We can chump the champion with one of these creatures. I'm going to choose to block with the Reejerey because Kira gives us more devotion for Master of Waves if we do top deck that guy. Alright, took 3, go down to 1. Opponent plays a Flooded Strand, no follow-up. I didn't play any spells, so this guy's going to flip. Not super scary. I mean, he makes a wolf, I guess, which is a little bit scary. Let me just double check this guy. At the beginning of each upkeep, no, at the beginning of your end step, create a 2/2 wolf. So that's not going to make a wolf on my turn, just on the opponent's turn. I drew another AEther Vial for the turn, which pretty much indicates that it's time to scoop. I said several times this game, that Master of Waves was my out, and it's true. It would have been an excellent draw, especially with Kira protecting him. I did take one of my Master of Waves out of the deck, replacing him with a Smuggler's Copter, but I didn't draw any Smuggler's Copters this game, so I wouldn't have drawn any more Master of Waves. So Smuggler's Copter not reducing Master of Waves power in this particular game. It didn't replace any Master of Waves. So I believe I scooped at this point, since I pretty much drew dead after hitting all those lands and AEther Vials. That's something that Copter can actually help quite a lot against, is getting rid of all this extra garbage. So please look away for a second. I'm going to go to the second game. I'm going to click now. Okay, I'm back with game 2 against what looks like Bant humans. It might just be green-white with a blue splash for a Reflector Mage, but I'll go with Bant. This is an amazing hand. Really great. I'm going to play turn 1 Cursecatcher, turn 2 Smuggler's Copter, turn 3 Kira, and our creatures will be protected. We'll get to loot. We've got removal for his biggest guy. Looks like the opponent kept 7, so we'll see how it goes. Alright, open up with Cursecatcher. Opponent will open up with Avacyn's Pilgrim. Monodork. Important to note that this is a human. It's not an elf. So it'll trigger all of his other humans. Champion of the Parish, Thalia's Lieutenant. I drew a land for the turn, which hopefully I'll get to loot away with Smuggler's Copter. I'm going to swing with Cursecatcher here, actually. If the opponent wants to block with Avacyn's Pilgrim, I'm going to slow down his development. I'll be able to follow up Smuggler's Copter with Kira, and I can equip it with Kira. So I'm going to have equip. I keep saying equip. I'm going to be able to crew it with Kira. So no worries about being able to crew the Smuggler's Copter, but I would like to slow down the opponent's ramp. And if he doesn't block, then we get to get in for one with Cursecatcher, and that's plan A anyway. But he does look like he wants to block, so Avacyn's Pilgrim is going to bite the dust, Cursecatcher as well, and we'll follow up with our Smuggler's Copter. Alright, what's this going to be? Champion of the Parish. With a tapped Temple Garden, I guess. Yeah, that's what happened there. So for our turn, we hit a Reejerey, which is nice, but it's going to make more sense to get Kira established out there on the board. Smuggler's Copter going to be able to loot away any of this stuff in the case that we draw into something better. Let's see what we hit off of our loot. Well, Island Walk Lord is pretty solid, so I pitched my Mutavault, since we're almost certainly going to draw into more lands, and we like having Lords more than we like having Mutavaults, though all of it's pretty good at this point. Opponent's going to take 3 in the air, and Copter is feeling pretty good. Opponent tapping his 2 lands to play a Thalia's Lieutenant. It's going to double buff the Champion of the Parish. Plays a Windswept Heath. No more humans to play, so the Champion of the Parish will be capped at a 3/3 this turn. Opponent passes. Now, we've got some choices. Doesn't look like our Lords are not going to affect combat math here, so it might just be correct to equip and attack first. But it looks like I decided to play the Silvergill first, which I guess is just as well, because it gives us another card that we can potentially scry away with the Smuggler's Copter. Actually, I'm sorry. I've been just recording all these videos, and I'm getting I'm getting a little bit tired. It makes a ton of sense to play out the Silvergill first, because we get to tap it as a summoning sick creature to crew the Smuggler's Copter and just attack for more damage. So totally makes sense to play out a creature before going to combat in this case. We'd love to attack with the Kira if possible. So here we're coming in the air, no blocks possible for the opponent. Not the type of evasion you typically see from Merfolk, but I'm not complaining. What are we going to draw off this? So an Aether Vial is great because we get to get that away as a top deck. We'll just throw it in the garbage, and our next top deck will hopefully be a little bit better. Even a land at this point would be solid because we've got so many things that we want to be able to play out. Opponent's going to go from 17 down to 12. Copter doing a great job so far. I think it drew us into this Island Walk Lord and got rid of an Aether Vial that we didn't want. I'm going to take this opportunity now to get rid of this Champion of the Parish. Leave the opponent with nothing but a 1/1 on the board. We've still got Kira on our side protecting our guys, and we've got Lords as follow-ups. And the opponent didn't like what he was dealing with this game, so he scooped it up. Really fast win for us. Copter doing great work. Please look away for a second. I'm going to click into the replay screen. So I'm going to click now. And you guys can look back. Third and final game against Bant humans. We haven't seen any collected companies yet, but I'm sure it's in the deck. This is another excellent hand. 2 lands, 3 Merfolk, great interaction with Harbinger of the Tides and Dispel. Harbinger of the Tides, it bounces a human to their hand, which they can replay and buff their other creatures. But typically when we bounce them, they've got like 6+1 counters on them, so it resets them. So a very important card in this kind of a matchup. Opponent kept, and I'm going to keep, so hopefully good stuff this game. Avacyn's Pilgrim threatening pretty explosive development on their side. For our part, we can play out the Cavern and Aether Vial. Drew into Reejerey for the turn, so got a pretty strong curve this game. Another Avacyn's Pilgrim. Opponent going to get in with the other Pilgrim. Interesting choice. It's aggressive, but if he knows the Merfolk matchup, he would anticipate that Harbinger of the Tides could be coming next turn. Harbinger of the Tides, I've said this before in other videos, if there's value to be had with him, you pretty much want to take it because it's very easy to miss that window of opportunity with him. Now, I do have Aether Vial up, so surely against a creature deck, we're going to have instances where the opponents are tapping creatures, and we can activate Aether Vial if we want to bounce at instant speed with Harbinger. But our turn 2, they have a Mana Dork tapped. Seems like a great opportunity to play out a Wanderwine, especially since I have to reveal a creature. Reveal the Harbinger, and just play him out. Slow down the opponent's mana, and now it's kind of an exciting possibility that the opponent will play a land next turn. Hopefully, I mean, it's possible they're planning to like ramp into Collected Company. If they play a land next turn and just go for it, we've got the Cursecatcher to counter it. So I'm going to put the Cursecatcher out now. You guys figure out why? Like, why would I not wait for it? Well, basically, if the opponent plays a land next turn, I'll put this Cursecatcher out now. If the opponent plays a land next turn and passes to their end step, if I activate Aether Vial on their end step, they can cast Collected Company in response to the Aether Vial activation. And then Collected Company will resolve, and then Cursecatcher will enter. So you want to stay on the lookout for situations where you can get caught like that on the opponent's end step. Big spells where that's something to look out for are Kolaghan's Command, Collected Company, things like that. So that's our turn. We bounced one of their dorks. They're going to crack a fetch land and get a Hallowed Fountain, giving us auto access to Island Walk, which is much appreciated. All right, Windswept Heath. Reflector Mage is curious here because he can bounce the Harbinger of the Tides, but then we can just bounce his Avacyn's Pilgrim with Harbinger next turn. So looks like his best target is Cursecatcher, but that guy's so easy to just back onto the battlefield. So Reflector Mage, not really huge value here. pretty much taps the opponent out. And this is very interesting because, well, what's interesting? Why am I saying this is very interesting? Well, we know that he has another Abyssin's Pilgrim in hand, right? We just bounced that thing, and he didn't play it back out. So this land is really strongly representing Path to Exile, right? But let's see. So he bounced the Cursecatcher, which means basically, so if I play out a Lord or something, he can crack this and path my Lord. So just got to stay on our toes here. During my upkeep, I thought about it a little bit. Reflector Mage makes it so I can't play out the Cursecatcher again. But we're doing okay. They don't have a ton of pressure at all. They have a 1/1. We know one of the cards in their hand is a 1/1. And they have just this 2/3 Reflector Mage. So I can take this opportunity to Aether Vial in Cursecatcher rather than waiting till next turn. And then just still tick Aether Vial up to 2. So get the Cursecatcher back onto the board. Now it's interesting the opponent let it resolve, because if he wanted to use the path, he could have used it on Harbinger, but I guess he was saving it for Lord if the opportunity presented itself. There's some really interesting stuff happening here, beneath the surface, because the opponent bounced the Cursecatcher, thinking, that I couldn't play it out next turn. I'd want to advance Aether Vial to 2 to play a Lord or something like that. Activate Aether Vial, forcing the opponent's hand. If he wanted to exile something, he'd have to use the opportunity now. Now that the Cursecatcher's on the table, I can play out Lords and attack with Island Walk, and Cursecatcher's protecting us from removal spells. So take Aether Vial up to 2, drew into an Echoing Truth. I'm going to play this Lord, as I was mentioning. I've got protection from Cursecatcher. Get in for 3 with the Island Walk the opponent's giving us access to. With the Hallowed Fountain, he cracks the, he went and got a Temple Garden, but I think it came in tapped. Yeah. It's going to take 3 and go down to 15. And yeah, things are looking okay. Now, during his turn, he uses the Path to Exile while he can, gets rid of the Island Walk Lord, but he's going to ramp us in the process, which is pretty useful for us since we've got 2 3-drops in hand. So we will go ahead and get an island out of our deck. Opponent's going to follow up with Reflector Mage. Again, curious, because if he bounces my 2-drop, I just get to bounce one of his creatures. If he bounces my 1-drop, he's bouncing a 1-drop. It's not a really big deal. So yeah, it looks like he wants to bounce a Cursecatcher and get in for 2 with Reflector Mage. So how is our next turn shaping up? We're definitely going to take Aether Vial up to 3, since we have those 2 3-drops. And what do we draw? Harbinger's pretty nice. This Echoing Truth is also pretty cool because he has 2 Reflector Mages. Remember, this is a singleton in my main deck. I just love it. It's a very versatile card, and gives us outs to a lot of garbage, like Ensnaring Bridge and Worship and stuff like that. So I think the first step here is just to get Kira out onto the table. The opponent's tapped out. Protect our future development from further removal spells. And then can't really attack with the Harbinger. I think I'm going to pass to the opponent. I still am expecting him to play some Collected Company stuff. Having bounced Cursecatcher, he might feel like he's in the clear, can tap out and play his 4-drop Collected Company. But I do have a Dispel in hand, and I'd love to bounce his Reflector Mages with Echoing Truth. It'd be a big blowout. And then next turn, bring in the Reejerey, start using Harbinger with tap triggers with Reejerey. Cursecatcher becomes free with Reejerey on the board. What's happening here? Okay, so Mayor of Avabrook, again, is the human lord. He's going to buff everybody, and opponent probably thinks he has pretty good attacks here with his 2 3/4s. And potentially with his Abyssin's Pilgrim, since I've only got 2 2s on the table. It's actually a pretty large attack. Opponent's coming in for 8. It's almost a 2-turn clock. 2-turn clock if you include Mayor of Avabrook next turn getting in. But he tapped really low to attack and get Mayor out. So now I'm in the clear to bounce these guys with Echoing Truth. Opponent can't play out either of them anymore, and he's just got the Mayor back. So we can even bounce that guy with Harbinger next turn in combination with Reejerey's trigger. So pretty big blowout here. Echoing Truth is Reflector Mage, and I think we're just going to take 2 from the Avacyn's Pilgrim. Opponent's finally going to tap that green mana and play out the second Avacyn's Pilgrim that we bounced a long time ago. AEther Vial stays where it is. We drew another Harbinger, which is very cool because we can bounce this guy who's already tapped, untap one of our lands, play the second Harbinger, tap and bounce whatever we want to. And that's after we get a free Cursecatcher. Alright, so we play Harbinger. We're going to untap our land. We can wait on the free Cursecatcher. I guess that'll come next. Okay, free Cursecatcher time. Looks like the opponent scooped at that point. He's got a 1-1 and a 2-2. We know he's got 2 Reflector Mages in hand, but they're pretty useless with the Kira out on the board. So yeah, the cards lined up really well for us there. We lost game 1 because I kept a really slow hand, which is, in theory, just incorrect in Modern. The only matchups where I guess it's conceivably correct to keep, you know, like 2 3-drops and a 4-drop and 4 lands is against like a control deck, but not really even then, because we really want to attack quickly against control decks generally. So anyhow, lost game 1, and then games 2 and 3 are pretty easy. Game 2, Smuggler's Copter did an excellent job. I'm feeling really, really good about that card. And let's see, in this game, we drew Kira again. Always does a great job when I see her. Currently only running 1 copy. We know that in Ixalan, I think that's how it's pronounced, the set that's coming out after this one that's coming out now has a Merfolk that pretty much does a similar thing to Kira. So I'm not sure if I want to cut Kira. I love that she's a flyer, gives us another blocker against Affinity. But this new Merfolk that's been leaked from the Ixalan set looks pretty cool. Let me know if you guys have seen that leak, the spoiler, and what you think about that guy compared to Kira. Yeah, and tune in for the next video, which will feature the 4th round of this Modern Friendly League. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye.